Ми традиційно завжди розпочинаємо.
And of course, traditionally, we are always asking governmental bodies first. So, Mr. Olaf, you're going to be first today. I would like to start from a question on Ukraine, our country that is actively working towards reinforcing the energy system and clean energy transition. What steps have you taken in order to reduce energy dependency of Ukraine? Is our work language Ukrainian or English?
Доброго дня.
Good afternoon, dear participants. Now I'm going to translate back from English what I have prepared. The main priority of the ministry when it comes to the energy sector is securing a long-term cycle and production, excavation and preparation of all critical elements, minerals. This is the foundation of the resource base that's going to secure energy resources for Ukraine for several years ahead. This is how our balance is formed. If we were to take our energy system from the practical point of view when it comes to energy transition, we can distinguish between several types of energy sectors. So we have sectors that are in deficit,
which is frankly is quite deficit in energy sphere, and for example, in scope of transition process. And in energy transition, we do understand that, for example, renewables should take quite huge percent in future energy balance. So before the active phase of war, we had a target to, let's say, have from 4 up to 7% of renewables in our energy balance. Today, we do understand that part of, let's say, thermal heat power generation, specifically coal generation, is destroyed, and the only right and quick solution how to rebuild it back is wind turbines and battery industrial systems. But there is two things which comes here from subsoil part, from resource part. First, that to maintain and produce this type of equipment, we need not only, let's say, some crucial critical minerals. We need more even bases like aluminum, copper. And here it comes so structural decisions when, for example, in Ukraine, we have more than 110 types of critical materials, but most of them has low deposits because of type of development. So to secure this, let's say, future resource, we need to encourage the right technology for geoseismic, for geology, geointerpretation, to try to find the right, let's say, answer, what's the real status of our subsoil use. Simple example. In Ukraine, we are a nuclear country, so we need to secure our nuclear stocks of, for example, UF6, uranium concentrate, and having, for example, developed 17 blocks up to today, we do understand that their level of stock of potential resource is a lot lower, and the percentage of content of uranium in the whole mass is lower than in practice. Why? Because this reports is mostly Soviet time geologic reports, which is not that, which doesn't have that high quality of due diligence, of geological interpretation. So in second, they do not take into account new technology. For example, if this is sand formation, we can use not only ores, we can use drills, wells, as it happened in Kazakhstan or other countries. And it's help us to resolve two questions. First, to define the real status of mineral deposits. And second, to make the future production a lot cheaper. Aluminium. Why so and copper? In Ukraine, we have a lot part of very important, let's say, cluster facility in preparation, like or production, but sometimes we might not have enough resource, which is still developed. And here it comes the mineral deal. Because when we talk with our partners from the United States, we do understand that the key aim is to build the whole road of supply and to make the right combination between the right types of reserves, market, and production of proper equipment. When we have this combination united, we have the real energy resilience in equipment and future production. And then we as a country might say, okay, this equipment is enough good in a logistic, in secured, for example, to procure in stock, something like that, but we can fix it as a part of our real balance in the next upcoming 10 or 15 years. Hydrocarbons. I do believe my colleagues from geology and other part will reach more in detail, but our goal as a country, we do understand that this is the most, let's say, well-researched part of our resource. And the goal of the country, of course, based on position of state companies, to get the right technology, to get well-experienced operators, to get more cheap finances with lower VACC, because we do believe that in hydrocarbon world of Central Eastern part of Europe, we have very breaking point, as it say. Why? Because we as a country, we start to receive LNG from Baltic and South. We will start to receive hydrocarbon from offshore of Black Sea. We will have our domestic production on land. Ukraine, maybe Ploeshti will provide us something, or let's say this pre-Carpathian structure. And we have even gas from Norway, which comes from Baltic pipe through this pond, through this country. So we have variety of molecules, and each of these molecule has its price. Price operational plus logistic to the market when it's consumed. And it became a competition between different type of resource. What happens in United States? They got a revolution because of technology. Do we have unconventional? Our professionals say yes. So it means that we need the right combination, how to work with old wells, how to work with unconventional, and how we should develop our traditional hydrocarbon reserves. Because in the end of the day, cheap molecule from Henry Hub will come to the eastern part of Europe and will really start to compete. I even do not touch the different type of crudes, because then it became a real competition, what type of fertilizers should be developed, or how it will reconstruct, more on heavy or light types. It's different, it's long-term discussion. We do believe that world will come, my personal opinion, in plastics, so it means we need specifically like very high developed 7 class of refineries, because the world will come in more, let's say, unfossil future with electric cars, something like that, and this infrastructure, EV, will really develop. But it once again brings us to the main point. What type of resources will come? And very good point for us as a country who will tomorrow become European member, that one day existing reserves will start to compete with waste materials, because we will be the part of circular economy. And getting the waste from plastics as a part of molecule will start to compete with a molecule which need to be extracted from subsoil. And that the same will come, for example, in, I don't know, batteries. There will be hundreds of batteries across the Europe, and type of business, how to refurbish, how to make them, how to manage this waste of the hundreds, thousands of batteries. That will be the combination, because they will have already micro elements of different types of critical raw materials that we are now trying to compete with hugest consortiums, frankly, like China and other Asian countries. That's why the right answer is to have the strategy, state strategy, and multi-state strategy of these clusters on critical raw hydrocarbon, because only then we'll have sustainable end molecule and end product for the country itself. Thanks.
Дякую. Дякую. От, власне, якраз в контексті те, що ви
Thank you. Actually, in the context of circular economy, could you please comment on any legislative initiatives of the Ministry of Energy when it comes to the excavation business? And actually, the circular economy was pushed more to the background. So what is going to be the area of support for the ministry? Yes. Right. There are plenty of changes, and currently the code also needs perfecting. In Ukraine, we are lacking a single important sector that we would lose thanks to the amendment to the 615th law regulation. And we have this regulation that allows us to develop green fields with all its risks that are borne by the investor. And currently we can also foresee some amendments to the tax code, for example, low tariff regime, as well as to production division when it comes to critical minerals, so that everything becomes quicker and more transparent. Because currently we are able to receive a big block with rare materials or materials that are hard to get, and it's possible to get an approval to use this block in a productive unit, in a production unit. And it's a very good asset, because in no other country of the post-Soviet Union we have such a situation. We have to have the right stimuli for both internal and external market participants. It's what we commented on in the first panel about junior miners, and several memoranda were signed. And in the second panel, we spoke with business participants about the fact that New York companies are not very present in Ukraine. And from the practical point of view, how could we unify our efforts, join our efforts? Because there are financial institutions, representatives of Canada, Norway, that are also ready for action. And today they heard they heard for the third time that we have to launch more and more junior companies. How can we do that in practice? Junior exploration companies, there are different typologies, different markets.
Frankly, it might be a physical company who make the research on subsoil, or it might be even investor, just investor, who will localize a specific portfolio of assets to redevelop or reconfirm just 3C, I have this case potential, 3P in current, potential resource. That's why the only point here, we need to make commercial condition quite low, extra low. Entrance to the land secured, but it should be really in one decision, because when you wait some local decision of local municipals for half a year or a year, it doesn't work. Then you spend at least 1.5 years on ecological environment assessment. So you spend half of your business lifetime specifically for getting just permission. That's why we as a government made strict decision. We said martial law, just run and do it, simplified everything. But on parallel, of course, our key and strategic focus to incorporate in specific in subsoil code, the right instrument. It's not only definition, it's a role on the market. Second, I do believe we need to change this model strategically. So states geological service, they should not receive the budget allocation finances to finance some subsidiaries. It doesn't work. They need just to say, here is our map. Guys, this block's confirmed. This is CC1, P1, this is P2, this is P4 and 3. Please, it's open run. Please give us geological, the basic main package of documents with locations, with potential, type of minerals, the length, 10,000, 7,000. Go get your process. Simplify this process as much as possible. Of course, with security on some ecological, but it should be compensators, not the wall that is not breaking.
Чи я правильно вас зрозуміла? Тобто спочатку нам треба внести зміни до законодавства.
Do I understand you correctly that at first we need to change the law so that the license or permissions are given for this production and development and the processing, and then we need to use some mechanism since we don't have the, or should we engage foreign partners? I think
Finances to redevelop and develop different type of minerals. Plus, it's always different technology, how you make this research. Specifically, when we talk about critical raw material, that's part not of only geology, it's also chemistry. Because UF is valuable when it is concentrate, so when you have specific conversion plant. That's why I do believe we need to put it on the hands of private business. And state service should just reallocate the data, should be shown transparent way where potential resources, and just manage the license procedure. And yes, it should be connected in the level of the law amendments that should directly indicate who is this junior exploration company or research company, mechanism how they might research. It can't be not only just DPRZ, how we call it's development project procedure, something like that. Yes, it could be some definition, but the mechanism is there. Yes, it should be the same type. When you receive options to redevelop the resource, reconfirm, get this risk on your shoulder. It can be the huge blocks, then it's PCA. It can be smaller blocks. And this part of smaller blocks doesn't exist in subsoil code or in any other law. Third, if we talk about strategic processes, we have super law, let's say, law on huge investments, which includes investments in subsoil, in development of raw materials. But this law is very general. It doesn't have strong instruments. So we need, having our partners like DFC, make a screening how to deliver the right financial instruments. For example, state credit program, securities, something like that, that will directly support subsoil users from Ukraine or otherwise other countries to understand what exact instruments will help them. And that's the point.
Дякую. Але хотіла
Thank you, but I have one more question. Can you confirm or object the words of Minister Sobolev that the State Department of the US will allocate some money on the geological service, and if yes, which will be the minerals and which will be the sector?
Процес. Я не...
This is the primary initial process. I support my colleague, the economy minister, and I think that this might be the first money allocated, given they have this specific nature, specific direction for the additional geological service. So this will not cover the whole scale and scope of all the processes with respect to minerals, but the correct financial and legal mechanism, what we need now to scale up the process, is this. Thank you. And the next speaker I would like to talk to is Vegard Grosli, State Secretary of Norwegian Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries. So, geopolitical context and energy security. So the political landscape has faced significant changes. In the Norwegian context, how much changed the system of de-risking with respect to, among others, the lack of dependency on the aggressor state, and what does Norway think about such partners as Ukraine in the new architecture of security in Europe?
Thank you very much for the question. I think it's a timely question. The geopolitical situation has changed dramatically, and I think we are seeing now that free trade is also being challenged. So, and then resources are used as mechanisms for conflict and for war even. So we saw it with the Russian gas exports, and we're also seeing now critical raw materials, as you were talking about now earlier, being used also in the international trade conflicts that we have ongoing. So from Norway's side, I mean, it's obvious that we need to work closer together to have strategic partnerships, also not just trade partnerships, but also strategic ones where you see which countries have specific resources that that everyone needs, and look at that at the European and maybe European plus context. So Norway has oil and gas resources, and when the gas flow from Russia stopped, we had to increase our production of gas to help meet Europe's need for gas. So looking at mechanisms like that, I think is a central way that we have to start thinking about. The critical raw materials is actually also a field where Norway has deposits, but we have to start mining them. And as the deputy minister was talking about, they're very long licensing processes now. We need to do things thoroughly, but I think it should be a goal to cut down the licensing and improvement time so that we can actually start developing the resources quicker.
процес ліцензування в Україні.
Are you talking about the licensing process in Ukraine, which is long?
No, this was in general. I mean, it's just in the world to for example start mining. It can take up to 20 years to get from you start having geological surveys until you are actually starting to produce the material. This was not particularly to Ukraine. it's just a global trend.
Тобто
And
це не оформлення документів, це вже
So you're not talking about this finalization of documents, you're talking about this exploration, drilling, etc.
the whole process. Yeah.
баланс національних. Наступне моє питання це про баланс національних ресурсів і міжнародної співпраці. Норвегія, хоча і не є членом Європейського Союзу, але залишається одним із ключових стовпів європейської енергетичної економіки. Маючи значні
So Norway is one of the key pillars in Europe. And how does your country balance this development of own resources with the role of reliable partner to international partners? And how does your strategy adjust to the strategic goals of EU, including this Repower EU?
Translation was lost a bit in the beginning, but if I understand this, you're asked how we see our strategy in terms of energy with the European one. If that was how I understood your question, and I mean, we're not a member of the EU, but we are a part of the internal market in the EU. So we have very close cooperation on that field, and it's especially relevant for the energy sector. So I think looking at, we have to, from the Norwegian perspective, I think the goals will be quite similar to the European perspective. We have to look at it as a whole, how Europe has to kind of develop more energy and cooperate on that in both in security as a in the new geopolitical context, but even also just for day-to-day cooperation. So it's very tightly integrated, and I think the example where we've seen the value of having stable providers of natural resources. We saw the value of that after Russia cut off their gas supplies to Europe, and Norway obviously contributes as a stable partner in that sense.
І наступне моє питання.
My next question, in the context of Ukraine and for the real cooperation, we really need the investments, and Ukrainian energy sector has a huge potential in terms of renewables, accumulation of energy, but the risks are high for known reasons. So how do political, financial tools, or maybe some de-risking tools, just like export loans or some investment guarantees, so which tools are developed by the Norwegian government to stimulate the companies to invest, to make them invest into partner countries, especially in context of the future recovery of Ukraine?
Great question, and I guess that's the whole reason we are here, to try to foster more of this cooperation between businesses from different countries and Ukrainian businesses. And in the energy sector, this is crucial. So we do most of our support for Ukraine through international organizations, financial organizations, and this also goes for the civilian part of our support. So we do that with the EBRD and through the EU, which was announced today, with providing funds so Ukraine can purchase gas. This is the approach that we have made. There are different approaches where you can kind of give incentives to your own businesses to invest. We have loans and de-risking mechanisms within our system, but I'd say our main focus is doing it through these international organizations, and that's been our approach. And maybe coupled with that, it's the Nansen program, as we call the support for Ukraine, it has a flexible element so that you can kind of adjust a little bit on where it's not fixed exactly where you put it. So we were able to increase the support for buying of gas in this crucial period, which is a good thing, I think, and welcomed by the Ukrainians, as I understand.
А які б ви бачили
And as for the most prospective lines or directions of cooperation, what would they be? Should we focus on some joint ventures or partnerships in renewables, maybe in energy accumulation? Because given this
because at the level of policy making for the future integration. So about this PPP between our countries and private companies, what do you think?
I think that's definitely a way to go. I mean, we were one of Norway was one of the largest investors in renewable energy in Ukraine before the full-scale invasion. We have companies that already have experience on the ground. They are now very active in trying to mobilize more Norwegian companies to enter Ukraine. So, and they are within solar energy. Today, in this conference, there will be some moves towards the smaller hydro power plants, which Norway has a lot of hydropower. We have very much experience in it. They are signing MOUs to try to introduce more of that in Ukraine. So I think we have. I see that having businesses already established in the country makes it easier for them to kind of, how should I say, invite and maybe push more governments to join. And I know the PPP program has also been relevant for several of those companies.
Дякую.
Thank you. Since 2026, so now let me move to these ESG issues, because starting 2026, our whole country will report according to the ESG standards, and this will be official. So the question is, in your opinion, how can Ukraine gain that experience, integrate that experience in modernization of energy sector, because Norway is the world leader in this matter of efficient management of energy and adhering to the EU standards. So what are the cooperation models that you think are the most efficient for the new energy system of Ukraine to be green and develop responsibly?
So the first part is as I was saying, is that several of the companies that already were in Ukraine, they are still now working, with, what should I say, a kind of a Norwegian model for implementing ESG and other models. So I think they are kind of a good, should I say, an example to they can share that expertise in Ukraine. And I also think. It is a good point. I think we can share our experiences in this field. We work quite a lot on it, and create the mechanisms where not only between businesses but maybe also between governments. How do we organize it? What legislations do we have? What rules, regulations, and transferring that knowledge to the Ukrainians so they can implement it in their own way. I don't think you can just copy paste because the countries are different, cultures are different, But to share our experiences in that field, I think could be a very good way to cooperate as well.
Дякую.
Thank you. And while we will speak to another speaker, let me just remind you to use the headphones, to choose one for Ukrainian or two for English channels, because this is the silent mode of our event, and you only can hear the speakers when you have your headset on.
Dennis, good afternoon again. Dennis is the Director on Corporate Strategy and Development of GSC UKRAINAFTA. Currently, UKRAINAFTA is not going through happy times like most energy companies. Yet you are still trying to cut the costs and improve the energy efficiency. And how can international partners join the project worth of $280 billion?
Is the national oil company of Ukraine. National means that we are owned by the government, and our key purpose is basically to make Ukraine independent in terms of and self-sufficient in terms of diesel and gasoline by producing oil and then refining oil at our own refinery. Indeed, from the beginning of the war, every company was hit in certain way. We too our oil refinery is not in operation anymore, but the oil production continues. And basically, by producing oil, we also produce associated oil gas that needs to be purified at the gas treatment plants. We have 6 units around the country, and they are extremely old. These are technologies of 1960s. But those Soviet time compressors are still up and running, helping us to purify the associated gas and make pure natural gas that we further transfer to the gas transportation system of Ukraine. And if not the war, we would be talking obviously about how we can together improve oil and gas production in Ukraine. But today I'd like to start with the gas compressors. I have even a relative slide. So basically we have 6 gas treatment units around Ukraine, several tens of compressors are up and running on those 6 units, and basically all of them need to be replaced with modern, energy efficient equipment. Because to be able to treat the gas, we have to burn 27% of what we produce. It's extremely inefficient. And we have developed an investment project of $283 million specifically to replace those old motor compressors with new machines. First, that will bring energy efficiency because we will be able to produce almost 20% more natural gas than now. Second, it will bring huge decarbonization because we will burn less gas, so we will be more efficient, less emissions. And third, we will improve unit economics. This is not just Support Ukraine project. That's a project with very good IRR and payback period. We are considering various types of cooperation. It could be loans, concession loans, it could be even joint ventures. So we are open to partner in that part of our infrastructure, the gas treatment infrastructure.
Дякую. І наступне в мене питання стосовно
Thank you. My next question is about the Alaska unit parcel that still has a huge unused potential for oil and gas production. How can we start effective action in this territory?
Ukraine is rich in oil and gas deposits. Basically, we have second largest oil and gas reserves on the European continent, which makes us a good target for development initiatives. Before I answer your specific question about Alaska, let me say a couple of words about Ukernafta in general. The company itself is very old because Soviet Union has established one company per industry, per country. So in Ukraine, there was Ukernafta specifically to produce oil. Currently, we are responsible for 60% of domestic oil production. We operate 93 oil and gas fields in 2 macro regions. You can see on the map, one is Carpathian next to Poland, where it says Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk and Chernivtsi. And then the other region is the main oil and gas basin in Ukraine called Dnipro-Donetsk Basin, which is, by the way, number 14 in the world in terms of oil deposits. Since 1991, Ukraine's development trend was declining, so after year, the country had produced less oil, and we are fortunate to be able to revert this negative trend in the past 3 years, because the new management team came in under Sergei Koretsky's supervision, who is now CEO of Naftogaz Group. we have conducted corporate turnaround, and despite the war, we were able to start increasing oil and gas production of Ukernafta, reaching about 10 million barrels a year as of now. So when we talk of Alaska, it represents a perfect example of the unconventional license that is huge in its size. It's over 6,000 square kilometers. Initially discovered and formed by Chevron some 12 years ago, when they had a plan to invest in Ukraine along with Shell, Eni, and other top-tier world companies. Back at the time, government has sold through the auction a special type of license, the PSA, Production Sharing Agreement, which is one of the best world practices for developing oil and gas fields on co-investment terms. So today Ukernafta has bought from the government the Alaska license. It's a green field because no current production. It has high unconventional potential. We have learned some lessons from our Polish colleagues who also put their bet on the unconventional revolution some 10 years ago. We believe that our geology is good and the land plot is huge. So we are inviting investors to come in and look at the opportunity to enter the existing PSA. If we refer to your earlier conversation, it will take about 1 month. So we don't need 20 years to start because the PSA is there, it's formed, we have wonderful fiscal terms. It's just 2% royalty tax for oil and 1.25% royalty tax for natural gas. Ukraine has developed infrastructure. By the way, 56% of all active drilling rigs of Europe are in Ukraine, up and running today, even during the war. So basically, this is a great example of how you can come to Ukraine now, even before the war ends, and start preparations for future production.
Дякую. Я прочитала, що компанія планує
I read that your company is planning to purchase 25 units up until the end of this year, because it's very important for the investor. Of course, the closer to the front line, the bigger the risk is for the investor. So what regions are we speaking of, and how can we increase the excavation, the yield, and minimize the risks?
And again, looking at the map, there are two main regions, Carpathian next to Polish border, and also north center of the country, Chernihiv, Sumy, and Poltava. We drill equally on those two geographies, and 25 wells is something incredible. Because 3 years ago, when we came into Ukernafta, the company was drilling about 1 or 2 wells a year. So we have done a tremendous, I would say, triple jump. We have formed a long list of our wells, prospective wells. We started small. We did 8 wells in 2023, 10 years in 2024. This year, we're completing 25 new wells. And our investment program returns very good numbers. Actually, our portfolio IRR exceeds 100%. And our discounted payback is less than 3 years. Even now, at times of war, with difficulties of logistics and somewhat higher costs of drilling, you can see on the map here, on the lower part, the wells that we have drilled and that we are planning to drill. You can see that Ukernafta believes that we can maintain up to 30 new wells every next year. And currently, we're not able to drill by our own rigs. We are contracting from the market. We have 7 suppliers that do turnkey drilling for us, including the UGV, by the way. We have started our first historical cooperation agreement in buying drilling services, and we outsource. So basically, we are open for the market. We conduct all the procurement through Prozora system, which is absolutely transparent. It gives opportunity to any driller to bid on the price terms, and this is how we select our partners. And not only drilling, also ESPs, spare parts, because Ukernafta makes transition to the API standards. We have pioneered to bring API oil production standards to Ukraine. We are translating them to Ukrainian, and we conduct this decommunization in oil and gas. Because imagine what? Now all the equipment that we run is very old. It comes with Soviet legacy, so we're gradually replacing it.
Дякую. А наскільки мені
Thank you. As far as I know, 150 million euros were put into another project about building power plant, and how can you cover this financial gap? Ukernafta is in need of investments, and we are in search of investors.
Other major world oil company, we're looking for the ways to be green. In this case, it's not only about decarbonization, it's about survival. To be able to produce oil, we need to run ESP pumps. So in the situation of constant regional blackouts and electricity supply shortages, we need to be able to generate enough power to be self-sufficient and run our infrastructure. ESP pumps, the gas treatment plants that we have discussed earlier, right? That all consumes energy. Ukernafta alone consumes about 50 megawatt per hour on a very constant graphic. So 2 years ago, we decided to become the multi-energy company and develop power generation as the new business line. We are starting from catering to ourselves, basically from becoming self-sufficient through introduction of gas pistons at the existing oil fields of Ukernafta, and we plan to develop further. As of now, we are very grateful to the government of Norway, to the government of Sweden, to the government of Netherlands, to the European Energy Fund and the energy community, and EBRD for supporting these efforts. EBRD has financed 240 million euro in loans for Ukernafta for procurement and installation of these projects listed on this slide. Governments of Norway and Sweden have purchased for us and donated in kind gas turbines that we will install to produce more power for the regional communities where Ukernafta operates. So currently now there are 3 types of cooperation. First, we invite EPC companies to come in at our most near-term tenders for procurement announced through the EBRD platform and provide EPC contracting services to us. That's one. Second, we invite manufacturers of the equipment to come in and participate in the equipment purchasing tenders. And finally, last but not least, we are open to JVs in energy because Ukernafta has large, let's say, historical manufacturing outlets where we have connection to the grid, enough of land, gas supply, and we could convert those potential areas to new power generation projects. It could be gas to power, obviously, because we're a 3rd largest gas producer in the country, or renewables.
Ну і ми відповідно логічно підійшли до проекту.
And so this brought us to the project of upgrade, modernization of Kremenchuk refinery. Now it's as far as I understand, there's this agreement, and now there's the negotiation stage with Honeywell and Accents. So how can like middle-size investors can join? And is it possible to increase the production of diesel and biofuel? Because for the energy independence and for supporting our country, we crucially need investments in sectors like this.
To work short term only. We have to be focused on the long term reconstruction and development. Actually, when the war started, Ukraine was 80% dependent on Russia and Belarus, their satellite state, in terms of fuel supply. Basically, on the first day of the war, 80%, 4 out of 5 liters came in from Russia. That's unbelievable. My understanding, and Mykola Kolesny can confirm, that Russia believed that when they would attack Ukraine, we will immediately stop because we will run out of fuel. And we all remember those harsh fuel shortages that we saw in spring and summer 2022, which brings us to the idea that Ukraine must be self-sufficient in fuels. Before the war, we had 6 refineries, of which only 1 was up and running, which is Kremenchuk. Now it's destroyed by Russians. So Ukraine has no oil refining capacities anymore. But we should be able to cater about 100% of the domestic market, which is 10 million tons of diesel and gasoline. Kremenchuk oil refinery is located right in the heart of Ukraine. It's huge. It was built and designed in Soviet times, and it needs massive revamp. The project is big. Our French engineering company Accents, which is world leader in designing the refinery modernization plans, have estimated the reconstruction budget of incredible $2.7 billion. And and this is a long project. You cannot implement it in 1 or 2 years. You have to prepare at least 2 years, do all the engineering, and then the construction itself will probably last about 3 years. So 5 years all in all. What we claim is that we have to start now to be able to start, engineering works, to be ready for construction works immediately after ceasefire agreement is reached. So Ukernafta is looking for financing. We invite governments, the European Commission, the US-Ukraine Reconstruction Fund to look at this project and prioritize it, because we already have the support from the government and the Ministry of Energy. Second, obviously, after we secure the finance, we're happy to consider technical solutions, EPC contracting, and everything needed to implement this project. Thank you.
Дякую.
Thank you, Denis. And my next question is to Maxim, basically to the partner project. Maxim is the director for exploration and development. And so my question is about new approaches to exploration. What are the modern up-to-date solutions or methods of geological surveys that are used by Ukrgazvidobuvania to increase efficiency of exploration of new deposits, especially in those hard conditions?
My job is to explore and develop for gas. Essentially, I'm a geologist by training, and pretty much geologists like to talk about technologies. But today I'm not going to do this. Okay. What I want to talk today is about operations during the war. I also want to share a success story in increasing production 3 times compared to the pre-war from exploration and development wells. I also want to talk about some philosophical terms like a purpose. Why are we doing all this stuff, okay? Why are we operating like, 30 to 50 kilometers from the front line? It is important. I have slides. Dennis, thank you, because I thought I'm going to be the only one who's showing slides, but I'm not, okay? And but I also got a little movie at the beginning. I don't know, we have the movie? Okay, I'll try.
Ми дивимося відео.
So now we're watching the video.
Set a tone and get everybody on the same page. This is what happening this year with Naftogaz UGV facilities. Okay, I hope this brings everybody on the same page and kind of putting, and also it's going to put a right emotional tone on my presentation. So my first slide is about the why. For us, it's pretty simple. Is that we want to, one of the key objectives is to keep the country warm. And especially this winter, as you know, is going to be a critical one to go through this winter after many destructions. Our objective is to support the Ukrainian economy. It's definitely cheaper to produce own national gas rather than buying outside. And our objective is also building a resilient energy system which could survive the constant attacks. I have another why, but I wanna talk about this during the next slide. Ukraine been blessed by having a unique geology and probably the largest onshore gas resources in Europe. And this is not a frontier zone. This is, the moleculars are there, so it's about the scale. It's about how fast and how reliably we can bring this to the market. And since UGV is pretty much Ukraine gas powerhouse, we are producing about 75% of domestic gas. We are having the largest gas reserves base in Ukraine. We have 42 drilling rigs, full power drilling rigs, which is the largest operating drilling fleet onshore Europe. And then, of course, we are the key social project investors into the society. And we have 18,000 employees who are running this business. Well, let me frank, to be honest with you, that the war is definitely impacting our business. Especially this year, we had numerous destructions of our infrastructure. In October, we lost about 55% of our gas production. And probably the worst part of it, we lost 80 lives. Many been injured and missing. This is a tragedy. We're going through this. I know Ukranafta is going through this. I know the entire Ukraine is going through this. We are operating on the edge of the front line. Over 30% of UGV acreage located within 50 kilometers from the front line. And we are drilling within 50 kilometers of the front line. We are discovering fields within 50 kilometers of the front line. At the same time, we are aggressively pursuing, I would say, almost historical results. We are delivering, this year we're going to deliver 100 wells per year. 42 rigs, 100 wells will be drilled this year. Most of them in the eastern part of Ukraine. Another big project for us is 3D seismic. We just realized if we're going to do top quality 3D seismic, we make discoveries. So our objective is to run about 3,000 square kilometers per year of 3D, top quality 3D. We haven't reached this yet, but we're hoping next few years we're going to be there. This is my favorite slide, which shows you number of wells and production, UGV production, starting from 98 until today. And you see the last 3 years, 23, 24, and 25, we increased production in average 3 times compared to the pre-war. Now I want to talk about a little bit about the growth vector. Dennis mentioned about big unconventional play on the western part of Ukraine. We've been de-risking probably one of the largest Europe unconventional play in Ukraine, which is comparable in scale and quality to the major Texas shale plays. We are in the process of de-risking, and we are foreseeing large-scale horizontal drilling next few years. And we're talking about the large-scale industrial operations, potential industrial operations, assuming that the de-risking will be successful. Second prospective area for UGV and for Naftogaz Group is the offshore. We have about 25,000 square kilometers acreage in the Black Sea offshore, and immediately prior to the war, we were able to cover about 5,000 square kilometers with a high-quality 3D seismic in collaboration with PGS. So the seismic is ready. We've been working and interpreting the seismic, and at this point we have generated about 40-plus prospects, many of them drill ready. So as soon as the safety situation will be improved, we're going to be ready to start offshore exploration. Summarizing, key strategic areas for increased gas production short term is, and I already talked about this, 3D seismic. We are conducting large-scale operations of 3D both on the east and the west, and we're going to be increasing this. Horizontal drilling, unconventional play, already mentioned that too. That's a midterm objective. We talk about 2 to 3 years moving into industrial production, again, assuming that we're going to be able to successfully de-risk the play. I think results will be pretty much next year. And a kind of longer-term objective is the offshore. Very important direction for Ukraine. With success in the offshore, both in the shallow water and deep water, Ukraine could become an energy hub for Europe. There are already discoveries in the Turkish side, on the Romanian side, so the geology is pretty much the same. We just need to have a time and of course, we need to have a proper safety conditions in order to conduct operations in the offshore. That's my extended answer to your question.
Дякую вам. І
Thank you. And if I may, the last question. There's a lot of projects, a lot of opportunities for our country to become truly independent, just like we always wanted. So do you see, now I'm talking in terms of investments, do you see the potential for attracting foreign investors for the development? Just like, and how does Укргазвидобування do that? How do you encourage, invite those investors, and is there the demand for that now?
Okay, I'll do a historical overview of this story, investment story. Prior my job was UGV. I worked for Shell for many years. 16 years I've been with Shell. And with Shell, I was the first Shell employee who moved into Ukraine in 2005, when Shell was doing the country entry. At that time, Ukraine been one of the most exciting countries in terms of investment for all the majors. Everybody been here, starting from the majors, middle-sized companies, small, everybody been here. I remember the conference AAPG run in the Ukrainian house was packed with people. We had two offshore rounds. First was the Prikirchinska, another one was Skivska. You know the history of it, so I'm not going to go into it. Many runs in the offshore, in the onshore, lots of interest. Shell signed an agreement, PSA, Exxon been here, in the offshore, OMV, and so on and so on, Chevron, you name it. I mean, everybody. What that tells me? That tells me that Ukraine definitely got what is needed for investors. You know, I work at Shell. I've been a part of international team looking globally. The Prikirchinsky area, which used to be, it's kind of on the eastern part of Ukraine. Now it's pretty much under Russian control. It looked like Brazil. Okay, geologically, amazing. By the way, the Skivska area, which is still in our waters, looking beautiful too. So the key issue is the war. Okay, so simple. However, we're not waiting until it's gonna end. Okay, so lots of work been done with many investors. We're doing study together. So one could be done. Could be like a joint study and bidding agreement. So when you complete the study, as soon as the safety situation is allows, so we could move quickly into this. Then, of course, there is Western Ukraine. Lots of possibilities there, lots of opportunities, and very soon we're going to have a big PSA round there, and I bet it's going to be more of those too. Eastern Ukraine, UGV got 4 PSAs. 4 PSAs. Okay, so strong interest, investors are cautious, more interest to the west than to the east. But I'm very optimistic. And again, Ukraine has all chances to become, European energy hub. But we need to have a safety. By the way, we are collaborating with Equinor Okay, and actually we're planning a trip soon. We're going to have a workshop together on the offshore.
Дякую. І під кінець підтвердіть або спростуйте гіпотезу. Україна до вторгнення Російської Федерації.
In the end, could you please confirm or reject the hypothesis that before the full-scale invasion, Ukraine was able to export gas to Europe? Was it true that Ukraine had so much gas that it was possible to replace other sources of gas with Ukrainian gas?
It is true. Well, as a matter of fact, I believe in 2024, first time we're able to actually to satisfy our needs. First time, okay? But again, we have enough. As I said, we do have molecules in the grounds, in subsurface, okay? We just need to bring fast and reliably them to the market. You know, that's a key objective. Okay, so I'm very optimistic. Not only Ukraine providing enough gas for the country, but also bringing gas to Europe.
Дякую.
Дякую.
Власне, чому звучало
Thank you very much. Why did I ask this question and hypothesis? It's because there are plenty of theories, plenty of guesses, so please, many thanks for rectifying this. Now, David Martinen, CEO and co-founder of XP Group. Mr. Martinen, when it comes to innovations, what are the key innovations that are going to influence the transformation of the energy sector in Europe the most, and how Ukraine could integrate these solutions into its own ecosystem?
Thank you. I mean, before I talk about innovation, and first, thank you to be in a distinguished panel like this, I want to first of all, re-emphasize what has been said on the potential. We have a partnership with Naftogaz for 5 years now, so pre-war, where we're operating mature assets in gas fields in Ukraine. We have increased the production on this field by 25%. We have reduced the methane emission by 30%. We have increased the energy efficiency by 50%. And I want to say that the potential in Ukraine is not only in the reserve. I think the potential in Ukraine is a whole ecosystem. I mean, Ukraine has 100 years of oil and gas history. What that means? That means there is universities, there is oil field services, there is research, there is a whole ecosystem that is there, that is ready. So it's a quick win. I mean, we can talk about renewable, we can talk about many things, but Ukraine, with the gas and oil, has a quick potential to really becoming an energy hub, as Maxime has said. And I have to say one more thing. I want to really have a thought today about all the workers, oil and gas workers in Ukraine. As both Maxime and Denis have said, they are amazing people, they are heroes every day, but working 24 hours a day in tough conditions to make sure that they produce the energy that the Ukrainians locally needs. And it's quite amazing, and it's been for us really a great success stories. I mean, we have 250 Ukrainian employees right now working every day to make sure that they're producing gas for the local community, and they're incredible. So they just, you know, I think I want to share my experience as a European investors. We have been really pleased to work with Naftogaz. I mean, it's a world-class organization, and we have dealt a bit also with Nafta, and so this is really a place to invest. And it's to invest now. I think I don't want to talk too much about post-war rebuild when it's now. It's now. Now there is also potential to do research, to do studies, to do things now. And especially in oil and gas. It can be done now because there is all infrastructure. There is pipeline, there is industry that are just dying for this gas. So everything can be done now. Now, if you want to talk about innovation, I mean, that's what we brought in this field. That's what Naftogaz wanted us to come in. It's in oil and gas. There's been really big transformation in the last 10 years when it comes from seismic to acquisition to drilling to digitalization. We even use AI now. There's so much data that's coming up in a whole field. So that has helped us to increase the production in this field. We also, another thing that has been important, decarbonization. We have been applying on these fields, on these 13 fields that we're operating, the EU methane regulation. So we have been reducing the methane emission by 30%, as I said, by being a member of OGMP, the Oil and Gas Methane Partnership. We're the first one in Ukraine to do that, and has been a great success. So yeah, I just want to say that there's a lot that the country has a lot of opportunities for investment and technology because there is an ecosystem on the ground that is ready for it. Is ready now for it.
Дякую. А як щодо стійкості?
Thank you very much. And when it comes to resilience and safety issues, what strategies do you deem key for Ukraine in conditions of increasing risks and threats?
So this Naftogaz and Krefnafta are the same. I mean, we have protection. We have to protect our people. So we have put in place a lot of things, and I'm not going to detail them now here, but to make sure that our people are safe and that the infrastructure as safe as they can be. So there's been a lot of investment in the last 3 years physically to improve that. But after to operate, I go back to this ecosystem. For an investor, if you bring the investment, if you bring the technology, the people are there. The engineers, the technicians, the operators, Ukrainians are there, ready. So you don't need to bring a whole plane charter of Canadian or American consultant on the ground. I mean, people are there, ready to do it. They have knowledge. They have the willingness to work and to learn. So the ecosystem is ready.
Дякую. І крайнє питання.
Thank you very much. Another question on rebuilding partnerships. You have partially covered this question as well, but I would like to clarify. Your company works in the sector of global energy transformation. How other international companies can effectively join the post-war rebuilding and remodernization of the energy infrastructure of Ukraine?
Again, I don't know the post-war. I know that now the country needs investment in oil and gas. And post-war, there is, I mean, we're looking at, for example, geothermal potential. There is geothermal potential that can be looked at. There is also, I think, if you look at the carbon capture storage, you need a gas field, a depleted gas field that can be close to. So all this is potentially after war. But I think the focus should be really the quick win now for Ukraine is to develop the oil and gas resources because they're here and the people are there to do that.
Дякую.
Thank you very much. This is the note that we are going end on. And if anyone has any questions, please raise your hands. Now you have a unique possibility to ask questions to UKRAINAFTA and other energy companies, to our government, to our international partners. If anyone has questions, please raise your hands. If there are no questions, then we are going to wrap it up and thank our speakers for sharing your invaluable time with you, for supporting our government that's working on improving our situation, and for helping Ukraine internationally. The time to invest, as we heard, is now and here. We don't have to wait till the war is over because the partners are here and everything's here. Thank you very much. Don't wait too long to join us.